we're up for another big highlight that I'm obviously very partial to, because the next speaker was my boss in prior life. So he recruited me to Singapore and Grab, and then about a year later or so and left and went to his next journey. But that's why I can say that he's like an incredible person that we are very lucky to have back at Techsylvania. So obviously I'm talking about Mark Porter. He's currently the CTO at DBT Labs. He's an ex-CTO at MongoDB. He was an ex-CTO at Grab, where I'm currently at AWS for the Aurora and RDS database. He's more than 40 years experience in coding and leadership across NASA, Oracle, and the News Corp. And his superpower is really to scale teams for the modern data stack, as well as, obviously, where I'm at Grab, where you've played a big contribution. And his talk is going to be around CTO confessions. What did he get right and wrong about team building, which I'm very curious to learn. So please all give an amazing applause to our friend, Mark Porter. Thank you so much.
I am actually the board member, which Sasha may have hired at Techsylvania, and I am also the spouse who retired and drove his spouse crazy that you were talking about. So thank you for bringing that up.
I wanted to keep it anonymous.
I'll do it anonymous.
If you really want to hear fun stories, ask Mark how he drove his spouse crazy when he tried to retire for a year.
It did not go well.
Okay.
So
thank you, Mark.
We're going to get set up here. Hold on just 1 second. Thank you all for being here. I would like to make sure I call out number 1, Philip and Sasha, and number 2, I'd like to call out my Superbet colleagues in the room. I'd like to call out the startups I know in the room. I have a team here in Romania of 13 people. We just hired our 13th. And I also think there's probably some Grab people in the room that I know. So I've been involved with Cluj since 2019. In 2022, I gave a speech about building culture in companies, about how companies got bigger. In 2023, I gave a talk about how you could build your career. And I always feel like tech is great, but I think humans are actually the far more complicated problem. And so to that end, today I'm going to talk about teams. Because you can have great companies, and you can have great individuals, but if you don't have great teams, it all doesn't work. I have been on an awful lot of teams over the years, and I'm delighted to be on the 2 teams I'm on right now at DBT and at Superbet. I want to clarify, this talk is about traditional teams. It's about the team where you have a manager, you have people that report to that manager. It is not about tiger teams or sports teams. It's not about families, because those are very strange teams. I actually don't like that meme of comparing families to teams. Last time I checked, you rarely fire your uncle or promote your sister. If you're a manager, you're actually on 2 teams. You're on the team on which you have peers, and they're the team you lead. And you need to switch gears in that all the time, and we'll get into that later. What would I like you to take away from this talk today? There are 5 things. The first is that teams are important. The second is characteristics you will observe about great teams. The third is a hopefully funny, but certainly snarky representation of bad teams. And the fourth is some action items you might take on your own to build teams yourself. Look, it's about 30 seconds per slide. Stay with me. You don't have to take pictures. All of these slides are going to be up on my Techsylvania blog and up on marklovestech.com. So let's start with the competitive edge. We all know that teams are important, but do they actually change the way business functions? But before we do that, let's define what a great team is. A great team delivers results consistently, predictably. They're customer-focused results, whoever your customer is. They're not just technical results. And they have fulfilled employees. And that's a lot of what I'm going to focus on today. You know a great team when you see one. You know a great team when you're on one. You know bad teams when you work with them or when you're on them. I did a little research for the talk, about 30 hours. And there are 40,000 books about teams in various sections of Amazon. How can they all be right? Why isn't there just one team book? Because teams are contextual. A B2B SaaS team is different than a team of hairdressers at a salon, is different than a team of chemists in a lab. So maybe a lot of those books are right, but they're right about their context. So what I'd like you to take away from today is the things which are right for you and ignore the things which aren't right for you in your context as a team. I work at a data company, DBT, so if I didn't give you some data, I'd feel bad about myself. So let's actually dig into the data and see whether building great teams is not just a good idea, but actually has business outcomes. Google did a project called Project Aristotle. They studied 180 teams over a multi-year period on 250 dimensions. And they found something amazing, which I'm going to read to you. We had lots of data, but there is nothing showing that a mix of specific personality types or skills or backgrounds made any difference. The who part of the equation didn't matter. I mean, that's amazing. What do we do when we build a team? We get the right who. That's actually what we do. Google thought that too. They went into the study with that being it. Did they need the right technical people, the people with the right diverse skills? No. The thing they found was that of the 5 major team building attributes, and you can read the paper, that psychological safety was the most important one to get started with. It had a 20% increase in productivity, avoided a 20% loss of productivity, and made teams at least twice as effective. McKinsey did a study which showed that diversity could increase financial outcomes, which, look, we all know that's all McKinsey cares about, could increase financial outcomes by 35%. Now, I want to be clear. It's not just diversity of gender. It's not diversity of race. It's diversity of tenure. It's diversity of skills. It's diversity of outlooks. The DORA organization, the DevOps organization, did a study they just released. And if you can't go to sleep, it is a wonderful 127-page paper. And you can see here on the right that elite teams deploy faster, fail less, and fix faster when they do fail. All of this leads us to know that having great teams can affect company outcomes and employee outcomes. So how do you spot those teams? Well, we're going to go through and we're going to see who we spot. You're going to spot teams who trust each other. They're going to have trust in everything they do. They'll respect each other. They'll know how to talk to each other. They're actually going to feel comfortable sharing intimate information with each other. And they're going to have very little self-interest. You're going to be so sick of trust by the end of this talk. In fact, here it is. This is the trust equation, and I've found it valuable over the years. Credibility is whether someone you're working with says true things. Do they say smart things? Are they good at their job? Reliability. When they say they're going to do something, or far more importantly, say they're not going to do something, do you trust them? And intimacy. Can you speak with them in a way that makes you feel valued, that makes you sure that if you say something a little edgy or a little wrong, that it's not going to end up in someone else's hands, that you trust them? And this is all the pluses. The minus is self-interest. The smallest amount of self-interest that you demonstrate is going to destroy trust. The teams will have cultural norms. They'll have ways they've agreed to get along. They'll have meeting cadences. They'll have one-on-one cadences. They'll have a way of working together that they've actually invested in. So think about your teams. Are your teams just going from day to day to day and the teams around you? Or have you actually invested in defining how you work together? They'll have the basics right. They'll know how meetings work. They'll know how stand-ups work. They'll know what we write a document for and what we don't write a document for. They'll just get that right. They will have lively discussions. The quote here is actually from me. I dislike the word conflict in a work context. And the reason is, if there is something which rises to the deserving of the word context, I actually think HR should be involved. If I'm arguing over whether we're going to write a new notification service in Go or Rust, and this is a call out to my Cluj team, that's a disagreement. That's not a conflict. So I get really excited when we have energetic discussions about important things. I get really unexcited when we have conflict. I would advise all of you to lower the volume in your team and talk about that. And here's some aspects of that productive debate. You'll see all of these respect things on the left. You'll see all of these ways that discussions can go off track on the right. Here's an example of the growth mindset. Joe just said something pretty crappy about Sue's team. And Sue could adapt one of two approaches. Sue could say, Joe's a nice person. Joe's a smart person. I know we're aligned. Holy crap, either there's something wrong with my team I don't know, or Joe doesn't understand something. I'm going to be curious. Curiosity is the key to the growth mindset. Or Sue could think, Joe's a snake. Joe's a political animal. Joe's a beast. I was wrong about Joe, and I'm going to go after Joe too. The one on the right is what we do so often when we don't have trust. Feel the adrenaline rising in your body. Think about what it would be like to be curious. They will make and honor commitments. They will analyze those commitments if those commitments fail or if those commitments succeed equally. Failed commitments are just as valuable sometimes as winning commitments. Here's my favorite pet peeve. You will not see them keeping track of each other. They won't say, I will follow up with you on that on Friday. They won't check in because teams that are highly functioning trust each other to do the things they say they're going to do and alert you if they're off track. This, I think, is one of the highest indications of successful teams or failing teams. They will have a sense of purpose. By the way, doesn't this sound great? Don't we all want to be on this team? They'll have a sense of purpose. They'll have higher retention. They'll have higher productivity. They'll think about their job in the shower. They'll go out to dinner with their friends. They'll talk about it. They will be more effective. They will have great leadership. You cannot have a great team without great leadership. They will have this idea that being effective is more important than being right. Being right is table stakes. I mean, we're all right at our jobs every day. But sometimes we let right get in the way of being effective. And we have conversations about who's right. Great leaders change those conversations into things about how will we be more effective. Now, this is a laundry list. I made it up last night, actually, around 3 a.m. Because I thought I was missing something in the talk. If you're managing your team, you're likely not doing any of this crap on the screen. If you're leading your team, this is actually what you should be focusing on. And I defy you to micromanage your team if you're working on all these things. There just is not enough time in the day. So think about building a good team if you're a leader. Think about asking your leader to do these things before they micromanage the crap out of you. Now look, I haven't met one of these teams yet. I doubt you ever will. There's this job to make teams better. And I have a couple of main pieces of advice today. And one of the pieces of advice is focus on tomorrow being better than yesterday. Don't focus on some glorious unicorns jumping over rainbows outcome. Just focus on tomorrow being better than yesterday, and you'll be on the right track. So now let's have a little fun. Let's talk about bad teams. We've all been on bad teams. I want to be vulnerable here and say, I've created some bad teams. I had to go fix it later, but I went in, I was arrogant, I didn't know how to listen. I've been put on bad teams, I've left teams. There are more ways to screw things up than to get them right. So what do bad teams look like? Well, first we have to talk about the ways teams develop. I bet most of you are familiar with Tuckman's forming, storming, norming, and performing framework. Forming is when it's all good. We're a new team. We smile at each other, and we don't even know each other's spouses' names. Storming is when conflicts erupt. You realize that Joe actually is a bit of a jerk. You don't know what to do about it, so it goes poorly. Norming is when all that stuff I told you about, that we know how our processes work, we know how to talk to each other, we know what we're going to do, starts kicking in, and people start feeling really positive about things. And performing is when a team is actually doing their jobs. You can destroy this so quickly. And the easiest way to destroy it is by trying to rush it. You're sitting there going, Jesus, I have to get to norming before reInvent. I have to get to performing before next July. If you rush this process, you will not create psychological safety. Things will become performant. And when something happens, a key employee leaves, you have a toxic meeting, you have a death march to a release, the team that you thought was performing will go up in tatters, and it's hard to start again. We all know what it's like to have bad meetings. I'm not going to go into these memes. You can look at them later in the slides. You don't want to be in this situation. So bad teams have terrible meetings. I'm not the world's best leader at running meetings, and my directs regularly let me know that. But I'm working on it. I'm working to get better every day. Bad teams let entropy win. Entropy is the randomness of the universe accumulating over time while you were off doing something else. If you're not improving your team's getting worse. If you're not dealing with the fact that you're bringing better people into the room, Sasha talked a lot about bringing in Amazonians and meta people and all that. These people come with a culture. I'm an Amazonian, by the way. These people come with a culture that they think is obviously, objectively better than pretty much any other culture. It's not true, and it will destroy your team instantly. Second, we get into this trap of hiring clones of ourselves. And by doing this, number one, work gets boring, and number two, we lose McKinsey's 35% benefit. And then another thing that happens is you deliver a release. You deliver what you needed to do, and then you move right into the next release and right into the next release. Where's the growth in that? Where's the personal growth? Where's the career growth? There isn't. You're just on a treadmill. So these are things that bad teams let happen all the time. They don't have cultural alignment. They have a bunch of clones, and they just go from disaster to disaster. You know, when I generated this on AI, it got really snarky with this one, and I let it go. Executive chaos, which your leader doesn't protect you from, is something that I bet a lot of you experience. Leaders who don't respect tech debt, who don't respect org debt, who don't let the team take a breath. Leaders who basically thrash you every quarter with some new idea, and they kind of think they're brilliant because every quarter they have a new idea, not realizing that in tech, it takes at least a year to launch anything. And if you thrash someone once a quarter, it's not going to work. You can read these other things on here. This is the hard one, because you can't fix this one on your team. You have to go outside of your team to fix this one. And when teams are in these situations, they often focus on the wrong metrics because they can't focus on the right ones. They're going to get thrashed. They can't focus on the right ones because no one listens to them. So they focus on the wrong ones. They focus on dates, not outcomes. They focus on how many bugs we have rather than the three most important ones. They focus on software elegance versus business outcomes. You'll see this all the time. A team will tell you how they're succeeding, and you're going to be like, but you're not succeeding for the business. Bad teams tolerate toxicity. They believe that saviors can come in. How does that make the rest of the team feel when some savior team or savior person comes in? They let single point of failures exist in the organization. They let brilliant jerks exist in the organization. And the one I really want to talk about here is ghost assassination. You start talking about the company in the past. You start talking about someone who's no longer here. Hell, you start talking about someone who's just not in the room that day. What's the harm? Why is that a big deal? Because everyone in that room, whether you're a leader or a team member speaking, realizes that when they're not in the room, this is how you talk about them. This shuts down conversation faster than anything else, and yet it is such an easy trap to fall into because you feel so darn superior talking about how things were worse in the past. Bad teams promote people early. They promote people who never wanted to be managers in the first place. They promote people because of time and tenure. and they promote people because they just don't know what to do when the person's complaining. This will destroy an organization. There's a book called The Love Languages, which I read in prep for this talk. A mentor of mine told me to read it. And we're not going to talk about love languages at work, but we should talk about work languages. Work languages are the fact that everyone has a way they want to be recognized. Everyone has a way they want to be punished. If you have 9 people reporting to you and you have 10 other people on your team total, every single one of you has an N-by-M relationship of how you want to be treated. If you treat everyone the same, you will fail and you will not create trust-based relationships. You need to be the person who they need you to be. That's your job. And they won't feel validated if you don't. They'll feel like a cog in the machine. They won't feel heard. They won't feel validated. In the credit slide for the deck, there's about 3 papers about this, which I found incredibly valuable to read. But look at the bottom right. 39% of people strongly agreed that someone at work cares for them as a person. Wait. 61% of people did not agree with that statement. That's depressing. We spend more hours at work than doing any other single thing in our lives. 30% felt invisible and 27% felt ignored. That's not a way to live our lives. Bad teams let talent decay. I told you there were a lot of ways to screw up teams, right? Bad teams let talent decay. They believe that people are fungible. Well, you don't get passion if you move for someone from one place to another. You don't have great people if you erode the bar. Bad teams cling to people they shouldn't cling to. And this is hard, and this is snarky, but if you want a great team, you have to have great team members. So Reed Hastings pioneered the keeper test. If this person threatened to quit today, unless you gave them a promotion or a raise, what would you do? And Reed posited that if you wouldn't give them that raise, not promotion, that would always be a bad idea, refer 3 slides back, then maybe you should go through your whole group right now. And people who you wouldn't make counteroffers to, maybe you should really work on their performance right now before they come to you. Knowing everything you know about every person on your team, your peers and your manager and your employees, would you hire them again? Or would you keep looking for a better candidate? And then the other thing, which is going to be contentious with a lot of HR people in the room, is, you know what? You and your boss and your teammates, you all know where they're remarkable. You don't need to go gather data and do PIPs and all this crap. You don't. You actually know it. So I have 5 questions that I like to answer, that I like to ask. Is this person on a team that is essential to the company? Is this person essential to that team's success? I mean, if the answer is no, we have a different discussion. So assume those are yes, yes. Is this person currently functioning at a remarkable level? And if they're not, can you get them there? And if the answers to those questions are yes, yes, no, no, then question 5 kicks in, which is what are we going to do about it? You can't have a remarkable team if you keep mediocre people around, because the stars on your team do not want to support mediocre people. Bad teams can be bad in so many ways. They can have decision paralysis. I'm not going to read all these to you, but you all know what it's like. No decision, wrong decision, decisions that get remade. This one is my personal favorite because it's probably the hardest one to deal with. You're an engineer, and those computers do exactly what we tell you to do. Sadly, humans don't work that way. If you are surrounded by illogic, you're in a trap. If your company says things that are just not true, how can you possibly have a great roadmap? How can you possibly build a great team? This happens in many companies, and we all just put our heads down and go, I guess we'll just deal with it and try and muddle through. Okay, are we all depressed? I'm pretty depressed. That was a depressing part of the talk. Let's talk about the 5 steps that I recommend to build great teams. Only 5. First, build psychological safety and trust. We've talked about it. The slide's in the slide deck. It all comes down mostly to assuming good intent and building a growth mindset. I've talked to you a little bit about the trust equation before, but just like any person who went to a highly technical college, I didn't like it, so I modified it. This is Mark's version of the trust equation, and here's why. Credibility, reliability, and intimacy. I make the argument that they are not additive, that they are multiplicative, and here's why. If you don't have reliability, it doesn't really matter how much credibility or intimacy you have. So if that is 0 or near 0, the numerator of this equation is 0. So that's why that matters. And then the second thing is, the instant you perceived that you're being used as someone's tool for their own good, you don't want to work with that person. You don't want to be on that team. And that's why I put an exponent on the bottom to denote just how unbelievably quickly you can destroy things. Actively invest. Actually talk about, we'd like to be a good team. It's not going to happen magically. Actively talk about it. I don't know how many of you have seen Lencioni's presentation. This is the one that's on his website, and it is by far my favorite. If you were to Google 5 dysfunctions of a team pyramids, you get like 200 hits. And the reason I like this one, and I would advise you all to use it, you can go find it on OMT Global, or you can look in the credits for the deck, is you can walk up the left side of this pyramid, and you can ask yourself, does my team behave like this? And you can walk up the left side of the pyramid, the right side of the pyramid, sorry, and then you can go and get a drink at a bar and just realize how hard life is. Because very, very few teams make it past the second level of the right side of this pyramid. Now, when you show them the pyramid, they're going to tell you how amazing their team is. And then you ask them these questions, and they always say, we have a lot of work to do. So, piece of advice for you. Get this, think about it for your team, and see where you stand. Have great team meetings. Meetings are the death of all of us. Lean into having great team meetings, and this isn't just the manager's responsibility, though it fundamentally is. You can build great team meetings, and I want to tell you about something that I experimented with a year ago that I am very, 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 very happy about. The meeting starts, we all talk about our dogs and our weekends for a couple minutes until we get quorum, and then we all go off camera for 10 minutes. The first 5 minutes of that 10 minutes, you type into a shared doc your highlights, your lowlights, what you're working on, and what you're worried about. It's fine, 10 lines. The doc develops, it's really fun to watch. Do it in real time, don't do it before the meeting. Spend the next 5 minutes reading everyone else's and commenting. And you'll be wondering, why is Sue worried about this release? Why is John working on this? Take those items and put them up at the top saying, hey, John, I'd like to talk to you about this. Then come off camera, and you have an agenda. And that agenda has things that were there before the meeting. It has things that you just put up there. And let people drag and drop in real time the priority level of things in that meeting. Now, what have you accomplished? In the first 15 minutes of the meeting, everyone has participated. Everyone has told you what they're worried about. Everyone has gotten a chance to talk about their own successes and recognize and congratulate others. And you have an agenda that they all took part in. Do this. It'll change the way things work. I can't emphasize enough, get the basics right. Just do it. Just lean in. Yeah, is it stupid to have a meeting about working hours and availability? I don't know. Maybe it is. But it will make your team function smoother. And then here is the most important thing after trust. You have to have clarity on the mission. Now, Simon Sinek, if you haven't read Start With Why, I would advise you to, or just watch his YouTube presentation, talks about people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Now, there's something really deep in that statement, which is when you're not in the room with your boss or your other team members and you have to go figure something out, if all you know is what you're doing and something comes up that no one knew, you don't know what to do. But if you know why you're doing something, it creates agency. And agency is incredibly important. And I told you there were a couple things I was going to highlight as the most important things in this talk. That bottom left paragraph is it. Clarity builds trust. Trust builds safety. Safety builds empowerment. Empowerment builds accountability, and accountability builds results. And results make us all proud, and results start the cycle all over again of us wanting to build better teams. So for the final part of my talk, I want to talk about what you can personally do when you go back to work. If you are a team member, you can do the things on the left. Are they hard? Yeah. Are they potentially hard, especially to do in Eastern Europe? Yeah. We're having a fireside chat tomorrow about the cultural differences between different cultures around the world. And there's a Hofstede professor who did a lot of stuff. You can look it up. And some of the stuff on the left is really hard for people in various parts of the world. But here's the snarky thing. In my experience, most teams are not great teams. We as humans haven't actually figured it out. So maybe you need to take the hard look, and if you think your team isn't a great team, you should give it your best effort, and then you should probably move on and build another team. Whatever you believe about why we're here, you only have 4,000 weeks on this planet, and only 2,500 of them in your career. Should you be spending 100 of them at a company where you're not fulfilled? Probably not. If you are a leader, look at all the things on the left. These are in your job description. Do these things to best you can. I spent a really long time on the column on the right. It was full of crap for the first couple times I wrote it. I wanted to put things that recognized that you set the compensation, the raise, whether someone can put their kids through college for everyone who you employ. Do you actually think they're going to tell you when you're a bad leader? No. In fact, they're going to shine you on until you're better than you are. All 5 things on the right here are things you can do without asking anybody else. You can detect these things. You can go and figure out whether you're doing these things right. I've told you a lot of things. I've told you about what great teams look like. I've told you why teams are important. I've told you what bad teams look like. I've given you maybe some hints of things you could do. I want to leave you with the fact that imagine being a great member of an amazing team. You'll be more productive, more engaged, more fulfilled, and more likely to thrive. And you can all do it. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Oh man, I miss working with you.
Okay.